it's a great day for Pitt football. I can tell you that. Just to add, really the fifth class, for me, and another just I think a superior 2019 class to this football program. I think every year you kind of just keep taking steps towards making yourself a better football program. And I look overall, when you look at recruiting, you look at I think overall is improving your roster, and it's all about roster management and getting the best players you can. And I mean, you could go back through like who we traveled on the road with week one, or the first road trip back in 2016, and look at 17, 18, and 19. And the one thing I noticed just as a head football coach, and you try to narrow your 72 roster. We're allowed to bring 72 on the road for an away game. We're allowed to bring 85 to the ACC championship game. But what you've noticed through the years is that it's harder and harder to pick that 72 because you've got a roster of players. The management of that roster has been, I think, really, we've done a great job, I think, with the recruiting office and just getting, just a better quality athlete here at the University of Pittsburgh. I wouldn't go through names or anything else like that. You just notice it as you're, going through it. So I think each year we've kind of improved our depth, and I think that's a reason why we were in a championship game. It's not about having the best players and maybe, some guys down here. It's about having, just quality from top to bottom on your depth chart. That's what we're trying to do. And sometimes those average players turn into great players. That 5-star may turn into a bad player. You see more and more of those guys transferring throughout the country as you look at things. But we're just impressed with the group of student athletes we have in. We've got 18 of them we signed today. There'll be a few more here probably in February. It was drama free. The 18 that we thought for the last 2 weeks that would signed. I shouldn't say 17 of the 18 we knew would sign. Liam, Dick, we kind of knew about. I don't know. I guess Saturday we knew he wanted to keep it quiet and make his announcement. Down in Mexico City. So, but we've known that one and trusted his commitment to us a few days ago. So, just impressed with those guys. When you look at the class overall, we a very versatile group. We've got eight guys on offense, 10 on defense, and those things could go either way. I think the important thing is when you look at it, and I think I tell you guys this every year, we've got 3 different groups, that we kind of work with. We have run groups like this. At times we lift in these different groups and train with Coach Andrews in different groups. But we have a power group, which is our big guys, our O linemen and our D linemen. We signed a total of 7 of those. Okay, just 7 big guys that we think are going to develop into being, linemen for us. Okay, but 8 on offense, 10 on defense. We signed big skill, 5 of them, and I put the quarterback in big skill. If he was a zone read, dual threat quarterback, I'd put him in the skill category. But because he's a pro-style quarterback, I'd put him in the big skill. But 5 of those, when you talk tight ends and linebackers, and then we signed 6 skills. So, a great variety. We're not overloaded in one or the other. And I think anytime you've got big athletes that can run, and you've got power that can run and are going to develop in our weight room, I think you've got a great class. 16 of the signees came from 6 different states. I'll mention those. We got 4 from PA. We got 5 from Florida, 2 from New Jersey, 2 from Maryland, 2 from South Carolina. Got some inroads down there now. We got 1 from out in Long Island, New York. And then we got 2 from out of the country in Canada. 2 individuals that came to camp, and I'll talk about those guys a little bit later. But 2 guys that came into camp and really have played a lot of football in America. Okay, it's not like they were going to be foreign. I've recruited and coached players that came straight out of Canada, and you feel even better with these guys because they played in Canada and developed in Canada, but then played a ton of games, in the United States, whether it be in Florida or really in the Midwest. So I think we're happy that when you look at those 18 guys, 17 of them were captains. Okay, 17 out of the 18 were captains. So I think anytime you think about the character, and again, I sure hope in high school your best players aren't always captains, because it takes more than just a good player that can run and catch and lay a block on somebody. But we've got a bunch of captains. We got 6 state champions. 1 WPIAL champion. But when you look at that, Vince Davis was a champion. Will Gibson, obviously a WPIAL champion. Kalijah Cansey, champion with his teammate Leslie. Smith, Nate Temple down in South Carolina, and then Kai Wright as well. So we've got some champions, guys that know how to win football games, and are excited about that. As I say every year, there's just so many people to thank because this is not an easy process. When you just think about the recruiting process overall, the media, Twitter, social media, all that stuff has made the game of recruiting a lot harder. And I can't tell you how impressed I am with our staff and how we do our business. Okay, because like I said, we don't. We've talked about this I think in the past. We don't recruit stars. We recruit football players in character, and I think character always wins. But it's our it starts with our recruiting staff, and I know Graham is up there, and Graham will be available afterwards to speak with the media. Yes, sir, Graham. Yes, you are. We'll put Graham, former quarterback, on the spot up there. The rest of our staff, won't be available today because they're busy watching today's practice, and I thought that was probably more important than bringing them in here at this time. We'll be able to get them in February when we regather together like we always do. But our recruiting staff and everybody in that office does an incredible job. I think. It's those hours they spend in there watching tape, evaluating tape, watching every senior game of these kids. I mean, they're watching the entire game. Sometimes as coaches, time-wise, we're watching, a 50, 60 play highlight tape, but they're going through verifying everything that we saw during the season or during, camp or whatever it may be. They're evaluating them every day and really, talking to guidance counselor. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff goes on in that office. Back in the old days, most of my years at Michigan State, it was me doing most of that. We didn't have a recruiting office built like this. We did it all ourselves. I mean, I had to be in touch with the guidance counselor. So I got to thank, Graham and his entire staff, Reed Case, for what they do up there. Want to thank Heather and again, I've been a lot of places, never have I had an AD so determined to come speak to our student athletes, every Friday night. Okay, and she's unbelievable. She speaks from the heart. She's she does an incredible job. So we thank her. Mark Harding and the entire faculty. Mark does a great job. Again, has a presentation every Saturday, and through my years here, guys, we could say we're probably about 75% hit. If we get a guy on campus, okay, we're 75% win. Okay, that's a pretty good number as far as getting 3 out of 4 when they get on this campus, and obviously sometimes there's guys that we can't take that add into that where you have to say sorry we filled up, which we know that happens at positions. So but they do a great job. Our faculty comes to breakfast with us on Saturday mornings and sits down, and I can't tell you how many kids after the visit say, Coach, my meeting on Saturday morning with Bill Valente was incredible. I mean, just that's how impressive the academics are here. And so I thank all of our faculty there. I thank our football team. They take nights, a Friday and a Saturday night out of their lives to spend it with their future teammates and getting to know those kids and who they are. We're always asking our kids, hey, what do you think? Do you like him? Does he fit in with us? Those are all things that go into our decision making. Thank our Mike Farabon, our academic staff for what they do. Penny. Samaya and our life skills. I mean, two major things that we sell here at Pitt. I mean, some people are going to sell Heinz Field or sell this or that. I mean, we're going to sell our academics because in the end, that's what they've got to do is come here to get a degree, and that's something they're going to take with them for the rest of their life. So that's been unbelievable. Our coaching staff, for hitting the road, spending the time away from their families. It's a rough, it's a rough 2 weeks this year. Last year it was 3 weeks, and I'll just speak briefly on just what our coaches have done on the road in the short time. Last summer, was the first opportunity to have a summer visit. We had one major weekend in June, which at times we thought maybe should we have this, should we not? Sometimes when you bring guys in June, come December they forget who you are. They forget they even had a visit to Pitt. So you kind of debated whether you even want to bring anybody in June. But I can guarantee you this: we'll be bringing people, to the city of Pittsburgh in June from now on. We had an incredible weekend for whatever reason. Again, our staff and coaches in the city of Pittsburgh is a showcase, I think. But it was incredible. And had you known, I guess I knew because I made that that statement. We were going to the championship game in Charlotte, I guess. But had I really known that, that we were going to be in that game, it would have been imperative to for sure have a June visit, because we had really 2 weeks on the road recruiting. I got into 14 homes of guys that are on our list, so I didn't get into everybody's home yet. You kind of picked and choose who you needed to get into right away. Have not been to everybody's home. We actually have some kids that still haven't officially visited here. They've been here on campus. They've seen Pitt. They know. I mean, our unofficial visits are very darn near like an official visit, except we can't pay for their food and we can't put them up overnight. Okay, so with some of these kids, that'll continue to happen as we go. So, and then lastly, I want to thank our class, that they had trust in who we were. I know, early in the year from my recruiting office, I know, we were struggling at one point and not winning a lot of games, and then social media kicks in and are you sticking with who's staying, all that baloney, which I really appreciate. You guys taking polls on who's staying and who's not. But I thank those guys for sticking with us through the hard times, and that's what you want, guys that are going to fight and they're loyal to who you are. They committed to the University of Pittsburgh, and for the most part, we held on to everybody in a volatile recruiting atmosphere out there. I'll just leave it at that. So we had 2 weeks on the road. 12 teams had 2 weeks on the road. Everybody else in the country had 3 weeks on the road. So we went out and really took care of business, and again worked from 6:30 a.m. to I don't think probably in the 9 evenings I was out on the road, I don't think I got back to my hotel room until after midnight. 7 of the 9. Okay, and I'm just being generous here. Maybe it was 8 of the 9. I think Graham did. I ripped Graham. Graham, I'm sorry for ripping you sometimes. Like, dude, are you trying to kill me? Right, Graham? So I think he was trying to run me into the ground. But we got a great class. So I'm going to go through our offensive guys here. I'll start off with our quarterback, Davis Bevel from Greenville High School in South Carolina. And the first thing I'll say when I talk about Davis is the first thing that comes to my mind is loyalty. This guy's a big-time quarterback that we're excited to have in here. I know Coach Watson's excited about having him in. Really, Andre Powell and Sean Watson, because Andre's from South Carolina, had something to do with recruiting that area and having a little bit of in the South Carolina area. And his dad still lives down there. And Sean Watson really was a primary recruiter for Davis as we go into that. And obviously I get involved with everybody. But Davis is a tremendous student athlete. He's a big-time quarterback, gunslinger, can sling it. Really smart kid. That we went down and watched him practice in the spring. He did not come to camp, but again, a guy that we had targeted, had up in the rain. We always joke on the phone about every time he came to a game. He was at the ACC championship game, but every game he came to, it rained. I promised him that it will never rain in Pittsburgh ever again, or any away game. But we had a rainy season, and we laughed about that. But Davis is a great quarterback, and we think is going to play a lot of football here at Pitt. We got 2 running backs. Daniel Carter. We went in saying we wanted 2 tailbacks. We wanted a big back and a smaller back. We just wanted that 1-2 punch. The big physical guy that we've had. You have an Olison and Darren Hall, and you have with Todd Sibley. We wanted to get another one of those, and we wanted to get a guy with a little bit more wiggle. And Daniel Carter is one of those big backs. He's explosive from St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but comes from a great school that competes for championships every year. I think they played in the championship this year and didn't get the win there. I think they played a great Lakeland football team and got beat, which is a great Lakeland football team. But they, Daniel Carter, we're excited to have him in, and I told him on the phone today, wish you were here for spring ball. The next guy, Vince Davis from Cardinal Gibbons High School. Really led their football team to the first state championship. Again, another guy that's got a lot of wiggle. And, the one thing I'll say about Vince, he's the leader of this class. They have all these little group chats, I guess. I don't have a group chat. I know, Jerry, you have your group chat with your boys, but I don't have a group chat. But these guys got their group chat. And, again, Vince is kind of the leader, really, of that, I believe. At least it was in the beginning. But Vince, again, a guy rushed for 1,000 yards and again led his football team. Got 2 receivers. Both of them camped here at Pitt. The first one, Will Gibson from Aliquippa High School. Again, we're fired up to have him. He came to camp. We weren't sure. We loved what he did in camp. We just kept looking and looking and looking. And the one thing in the Western Pennsylvania, and I can say really the whole state of Pennsylvania, is my message out there is we go slow. I am not gonna offer guys early in this area and try to pull out on them. I just don't want to do it, and so we're always going to take our time in this area because too often it happens. Where people offer kids and then all of a sudden they back up and all of a sudden you never hear from them again. That's not going to happen here, or at least we sure hope it's not going to happen. Sometimes things happen, but we want to offer those guys and we want them. And Will was a guy that we continue to study. I took I believe a Friday night and watched them at home in the Pitt, right? What's it called out there? The Pitt. And went to the Pit and watched the game there. And I'm telling you what, I was there watching a couple players, and that guy caught my eye. I was like, that guy right there is one of the best players on this field. Period. That was what sold me on Will. He's a football player, man. He runs, he tracks down the football. He'll go get it, and I think he's a big time wideout for us. The next guy, Jared Wayne, who might be a mid-year guy. We're still waiting. Might find out tonight. Find out tomorrow. I'm in no hurry. We don't press guys for mid-year, but Davis Bevel will be here for spring ball, so you'll get to watch him in a spring game at Heinz Field this summer. And again, Jared Wayne from Clearwater Academy International down in Florida, down in the Tampa area there, the west coast of Florida, was a guy that came to camp and earned a scholarship. Okay, and obviously Will Gibson did as well, but came in and blew it away. I won't give you all his stats of what he ran, but he ran fast enough. He's a big, tall, athletic guy. And when I look at our class, he's one of the more mature guys, in this class. When you talk to this guy, it's like he's 28 years old already, and you're like, really? Did they hold you back? I know you got 13 grades in Canada, but this guy's a mature just a great student athlete, and we're excited to have Jared. And again, we may have him. We may have him down here on campus here this January. At tight ends, Jason Collier from West Deptford High School, a big joker. I think every time I see him, he gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Matter of fact, at last count, he was 292 pounds. Okay, so he's another big old tight end that is athletic. On my phone, I got some video. I found out on our home visit that he could long snap as well. He was firing. He about took Corey Sanders' head off with a long snap in the dark out in the backyard. He can fire the ball. He's a good football player. He can catch. Didn't have an opportunity to catch a whole lot of balls there at that high school, but he is a big athletic tight end, and we're excited to have him. I've had a player out of that high school before that I had some success with, and it was good to get another guy out of West Deptford High School. Got two offensive linemen. Matt Gonsalves, South Manor High School. Matt is a guy that's way out on Long Island, came to camp, earned a scholarship, loved him. Obviously came on his official visit. Our players actually fell in love with him as well. Those old linemen are kind of, jolly guys as we get around Christmas, and, you just, really the two linemen, you heard that the kids just loved being around them. And that's something that's important, is the cohesion that our players have together. But Jason is Matt is a big offensive tackle, and a guy that Coach Borbs is going to get a chance to mold and develop. He plays with an attitude. He's tough. He's on the basketball team up there, and I've yet to be at his high school, and we'll get there in January. The next one is Liam Dick. Liam is a guy that we've been on since the summer. This guy, I think we may have been the first Power 5 offer he had, and then he continued to explode. We were kind of wondering whether we should even have offered him so early. We should have just let him hide away. But he played at Clarkston Secondary School up there. He played for the North. What was it, Coach? Clarkston Football North. They really have two football teams. I mean, they have the Clarkston High School, and then the Football North is really a group that they kind of recruit. It's almost like a prep school that they got kind of a second floor of the high school up there, and really they have their own football team that works out of that high school. And I think they played one game in Canada, and the rest of the game they played down in the States. They played all over. If you looked at your schedule, they played everywhere. They played in St. Edwards up in Cleveland. They played Erie Cathedral. They played St. X down in Cincinnati. I mean, they played some of the best schools. I think they played St. Francis down in Maryland. I mean, they travel all over and play some of the best. So he's got his feet wet against some of the best players in high school. I mean, you talk about players at all those places, from St. Francis to St. Ed's and St. X. I mean, he's played some of the best, so we're excited to have him. So that's kind of our offensive guys. Defensively, we're able to get 5 defensive linemen, 5 big power guys. The first one, Kalaji Cansey from Miami Northwest High School. Just a guy that we had to hold on near the end there. People are coming in. Coach Partridge obviously did a great job at holding on to some of those South Florida guys, and he's just another big athlete that I think is going to be a guy that can come in and help us when he gets here. Had over 200 tackles in his seasons there at Northwest, and it's just a big athlete that can run, change direction, get after the quarterback, and again, one of those guys that has that personality that you want to coach every day. DeAndre Jules at Northwest High School in Maryland, and again a guy that came to an official visit in June, I guess, June 18th, and was a guy that was highly recruited, and after that visit, him and his mom Sabrina were kind of locked in and sold on who we were, and he committed on the spot that Sunday, as did a lot of them. When Davis Bevel, just so we're on the same page, was the first guy. He started the deal, so I'll never forget him. Matter of fact, his dad's got a picture of the clock in my office. I forget, it was maybe 8:38 a.m. when the whole thing started on that Sunday morning of that June weekend. That Pitt is it kind of scrolled out a few times that day, but Davis started it, but DeAndre followed suit and was one of the next guys to commit. So we're excited to have him as one of our defensive linemen. Bamanga Brima from Loyalstock High School in I guess Central PA. Went out there and saw Bam at his house last week, and just an incredible young man. Dad's a reverend at the church there in town. He's just a super person. I've never seen a guy bring so many books to a home visit or the visit. I mean, he came in, he had a book bag full. He had his iPad ready to go. Just a super kid that's a very athletic defensive end that we had in camp and offered from camp. So we're happy to have Bamanga here. Bryce Nelms from West Orange High School in northern New Jersey. Again, another big athletic defensive end. He's got to be 6'6". I mean, he like these kids keep getting tall. So I don't know how tall they really are, but Bryce is a big athlete that can do a lot of different things. And Bryce played a lot of his ball down in Atlanta, Georgia, for the first couple of years, and then moved up with his dad, who's to take care of his mother in New Jersey. And his dad Eric is mom's only son. So I mean, just sitting in that home and figuring out who he was as a person is just incredible. Character guy that we have, that grandma says is the most polite person. And again, he's just a polite kid that when he gets on the field, he'll turn it loose. So we're happy to have him. Nate Temple from Abbeville High School down in South Carolina, played in the All-Star game last week. Again, a guy we did not see at our camp. It's one of those road camps we went to. We saw him down in at the Georgia camp when we went down as a staff. And so we got to see him live and fell in love with him down there in that camp. We didn't go down there looking at Nate Temple. We were down there just looking at everybody. And this guy popped off on every drill you saw. And, with a camp of probably 600-700 kids, this kid just stuck out to us as a high motor, intense. And he went through 3 different sessions at camp. And I was kind of, most kids nowadays, they go to camp for 2 hours and they leave, and then a week later they go to another camp. This guy was at 3 sessions of Georgia camp, and he looked as good in the 3rd session as he looked in the 1st session. That was what the kid's just got a motor. He's athletic. They run a similar defense to what we do. He's a detail guy, so we're happy to have Nate in this class as well. And again, just a side note on Nate. Nate was one of those guys that visited unofficially with his mom and dad during the summer. I don't know if anybody knows that. There's Mike Faribaugh. Thanks, Mike. Mike does a heck of a job. Mike's available for any media afterwards if you're talking academics. Good luck to you. See how you like that. You might run if we get done here, but Nate was the guy that called up after an official visit maybe 4 days later, and it was after that big weekend we had, and it was like we got filled up pretty quick. So Nate was the guy. Originally we had to say, Nate, we don't have anything for you right now. We had to almost turn him down, and that was probably, as a football coach, that's the worst thing you have to do to a kid is say, we can't take you right now. And that happens, more than, you probably read about in the newspaper, because everybody, has that pride and don't want to say they, couldn't go there for whatever reason, you filled up or whatever. So that happens more than you guys will ever read, because nobody tells you the inside on those. But Nate was a guy that we continued to call, and Charlie Partridge stayed on him all through. And I said, stay on that guy. We like that guy. We know who he is. And then, time came when we said, just taking the best available. We just said, hey, we got to offer this guy. And so, we jumped on Nate, and, I told him to take his time. Don't just say, yes right now. I want you to think about it. And, not 3 days later, I believe, he called up and said, I'm going to be a Panther. So we're fired up to have him. Kai Wright, Kai Wright did not come to camp as a senior going into a senior year, but he had been to 2 previous camps. Kai's a big guy. He can do a lot of different things. He'll start off as a linebacker. I mean, I think, if you watch any of his high school games, you'll wonder if he can't be that wildcat quarterback that Darren Hall and Quadri Olson can be. I mean, he can throw it. He'd be a threat throwing the ball. He could do a lot of different things, but Kai is a guy that, came out really during the passing camp and said, Coach, I'm in. He wasn't working at camp, but we're happy to have Kai. Brandon George from Berks Catholic High School. Again, another guy like Kai that came to camp and earned a scholarship. And Brandon George is a big physical guy. Played tailback, played middle linebacker, and will strike you. He's physical. Again, another big athlete, big skill guy that can do a lot of different things. And then the last linebacker, Leslie Smith from Miami Northwest High School, came up to camp with a couple of his coaches in the summer, and just had an outstanding camp. And when I sit there and thank our players, Sean Ido really hung out with this kid most of the camp and coached him up. And we always take input from our kids, but Leslie's a smart football player. There's sometimes you coach guys and they don't get it, and you figure they're going to get it when they get here, and sometimes they don't get it when they get here for a year or 2 or 3. But Leslie was a guy that just picked up what we were teaching him. I mean, he picked it up really quick. So we love that about Leslie. Obviously, the athletic, things that he can do. We loved him because of that. But, the intelligence is a thing that, to me, stands out to that guy. And, after camp, all the linebackers, especially Sean Ado, was coming up saying, Coach, we need this guy. This guy's awesome. This guy, Sean, and our players get to understand what, who's coachable, who's not coachable. So it's a great learning experience for them. So Leslie's, a guy that, we're excited about. We got one safety in Brandon Hill from Wekiva High School down in the Orlando area, and we're excited to have Brandon. Super athlete. I mean, he'd send me tape during the season to some of his highlights and some of his pick sixes. This guy can run. He can catch. He's a ball hawk, and he'll smack you as well. He's a tremendous football player and a tremendous tremendous player in person. Just love this kid. He's always got a smile on his face, and we can't wait to get him here as well. And then we got one corner that AJ Woods from Northwest High School, again same high school as DeAndre Jules, that came to camp, and it took us a little longer to offer AJ. It may have been 2 or 3 weeks, and I probably screwed that up. I should have offered him immediately, but I believe he ran the fastest 40 time in camp. I'll just give it to you because, and again, it may not be the fastest, but he ran a legit 4.4 on our turf indoors, and not many kids. 4.3, I'm getting corrected back. There was 4.3. Sorry, AJ, but AJ is a fast dude that can, we know, I mean, it's legit speed, and sometimes you look at Nike camps, Graham always gets mad when I say I don't trust all those Nike camps. Jerry DePaul could be there timing people. Jerry's timing with his thumb. But when we got our watch on that guy and he runs a 4.3 or 4.4, it's a fast time, especially on the turf in the summer. And who knows if he ran at a camp prior to that. Some kids come in back to back, and again, we do a great job. The other thing, I guess I got to thank Chad and the rest of our video guys. One of the things we do when they come to camp, and I know Chris, you get to quite a few camps, is we get to video all these guys. So even if a guy runs a 4.7, we look and see, did he get a terrible start? Did he trip and fall? Did he run through the 40 yards? So, the 40 time itself really doesn't matter as much as, we watch the technique and how they run through that thing. So we film everything, and Chad and his crew, as well as our recruiting office, breaks that thing down, and we can just watch, a crisp peak video and see everything he's doing, and makes us efficient as far as what we do. So I think that's aided our staff in offering the guys that we want to be a part of this program. But AJ, again, fast cover guy. Didn't have many balls thrown at him this year because he was locked down. He's a guy that likes to press, and he was a guy that, like I said, took me a couple weeks to offer him because I was kind of being, waiting on somebody else, and finally I just said, hey, this guy's too good of a football player. We're going, and I appreciate him having patience and trusting in who we were. So that's our 18 football players, 2019 class. So I guess I'll open it up for questions. I probably talked too much already anyway. Who's got some questions? You answered it all?
Did you feel like as you went out on the road in the last 2 weeks, different reception after going to the ACC championship game? You kind of called for momentum or energy out of that?
You know what? Not really. I mean, because we were, Chris, because we were already, recruiting's already underway. I think maybe that ACC championship may help us in the 2020 class more than it's going to help you in the 19. I mean, you can count them. I don't know how many commitments we've had after that game, but maybe one. I mean, I don't even know. So I can't tell you that game or being in that game has helped this class, but I think it helps for the future of what we can do here in Pittsburgh as a football team. I think people, open their eyes to it, but I think it maybe will play a bigger factor in 2020 because most of our guys already believed that we could win a championship. They already committed to us long ago and hung in there and really, to me, that 2019 class was part of this championship class.
Wayne will be in here in spring. Anybody else?
Yes, good question, Jerry. Davis will be here for sure. Liam Dick will be here for sure. Okay, so they'll be here, and I hope to know something on Jared. If you guys want to call him tonight and tell him the pluses and minuses, that's great. You can tweet at him. I don't have his Twitter on me, but I'm sure you do. But I don't know what Jared's going to do, but I'm happy. I mean, he originally back in the summer when he committed said I'm coming mid-year, and then halfway through the year. He said, Coach, I hope you're not mad at me. I feel like I should finish my year. And I said, Jared, definitely not gonna be mad at you. I want you to you got to be ready for this. It's a big step to go, to the next level. And if you're not 100% ready, I don't want you to be here. If you're 99, you should stay in high school. You got plenty of time to get here. So I don't rush those guys at all to come. So if he comes, that's great. If he doesn't, it's what's best for Jared. So we'll have possibly 3, but 2 for sure.
What is it that you think makes this class unique or special? Is it all of them, so many of them committing on the same day like they did? Is there something else that stands out to you about this group?
I would say that June 18th weekend, the way, that group came together, the way they just bonded that weekend. And there's something about, the bonding that happened that weekend that was special. And those guys, have, like I said, that group chat that they got going, those guys are just a loyal group of guys that bonded that weekend together. And I'm not just talking the players bonding with each other. I'm talking the families. I mean, you talk about going to school for 4 or 5 years and being around other parents, moms and dads that you enjoyed being around, and you're going to have, they had 48 hours of memories together that weekend, and that really just kicked it off. And again, that's a tribute to our staff and what we did that weekend, and really just who we are as people. I don't think you get any smoke and mirrors when you come here. You get what we are, who we are, and I think the University of Pittsburgh sells itself, and I think that's the people here. Everybody, when I first took the job here, and I'd never lived in Pittsburgh, everybody talks about the people in Pittsburgh, and that's what we've grown into. Is it's all about the people. From Heather Lyke when she comes and talks on a Friday night, to Mark Harding, to all our coaches and everybody that's involved through the weekends. Wherever we eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it's you can everybody makes an impact.
In regards to local kids, are you finding there's more competition for these kids now than when maybe you first started 4 or 5 years ago?
I don't know if there's more competition. I'd say there's no more competition. There's great football in this area, and everybody's always going to come in this area. I mean, it's Western Pennsylvania, and sometimes it's a great year, sometimes it's a down year, but I think the same people. There's nobody in the country saying we're not going into Western Pennsylvania and recruit for whatever reason. I mean, they're all coming back. If you have 10, Power 5 guys, or you have 6, or you have 26, I think Western Pennsylvania speaks for itself. The coaching that's done in this area is up here. I mean, any game you go to, I think it's impressive. Coach, I mean, you look at Coach Warfield. I mean, I went to that game. I texted Coach Warfield after the game, and was like, hey, it was impressive just the way the kids acted on the sideline. how they played, how hard they played, and the fun they were having. I mean, it just goes in. First year coach. I congratulate him again on a state championship with what he did there, and he came in there and got it done.
It's more difficult. It's always been difficult to recruit this area.
Oh, it's always been difficult. It's always been difficult. I mean, we recruited this area when at the last school I was at, and I don't know how much success they've had in this area. It's always been hard. It's always been hard.
When you had so many guys commit early, you had to list like 12, 13 guys in that one weekend. How did that change things from a planning perspective? Did it allow you to be more careful and diligent about the rest of the guys that you wanted to take moving forward after you got the big bunch?
Yeah, I mean, you're planning definitely. I mean, your board, your board changed, and like I said, unfortunately that weekend we had to tell guys we can't take you. I mean, we can't take you. I mean, we had a guy that signed with the school in California that was on that weekend that we had to say sorry, we can't take you. I mean, he signed with a pretty good team out west. I mean, yeah, it changed. I mean, it changed that weekend. It changed every meeting I got into. It changed by the minute. And then then you could be a little bit more selective as you went through. It wasn't and again, really what it really helped us do, especially with losing a week, it gave us an opportunity to narrow down on what we want, what our needs are, because you knew what you had already. And I think that was the best thing about it. You didn't have to watch as much tape. I mean, you think about the volume of tape, and really what it's done is given us a great jump on the next class. And I think when you think January's coming around, I mean, we'll be out heavily recruiting that 2020 class, and that's the advantage of having this early signing period. Is now really January becomes spring recruiting. Okay, and I don't know what May becomes. When we get to spring recruiting, I don't even know what that becomes. But it's almost like the NCAA's got to change the whole calendar a little bit, I think.
Year two of this early signing period, have you changed at all, or has your opinion evolved on how you sort of handle a guy that is committed to you guys or did commit to you guys but did not end up signing today for whatever reason?
What was the beginning part of the question?
Has your mind changed, or has your opinion sort of evolved on how you deal with those kind of situations? A guy that hasn't technically decommitted, I guess, but didn't sign today for whatever.
No, I mean these young men they got a lot of people in their ears. Okay. And I still feel really good, and we're good either way. We're going to survive either way. But no, my opinion hasn't changed at all. I mean, I love the early signing. I love the ability to bring guys in June. And you're not going to get them all. And I think every year it gets harder and harder to hold on to everybody, because there's so many trainers, coaches, parents, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle that are telling them different things. And I'm not going to talk about anybody that is not with us, but just you have to have patience, and everybody's different, and you got to understand their differences. And some people want to enjoy the process, some people are truly confused. I've got a nephew that was going to sign somewhere today, and I haven't actually even had a chance to text him to find out where he went. But I was getting phone calls, trying to help out with that situation. So. And he had some good choices, and there was an issue as far as where he was supposed to sign, and what he wanted to do, and how it was crazy. So there's a lot of things that go on in these kids' lives that sometimes we don't all understand. But we got to be patient, and I respect these kids for what they do and the choices they have to make. It's not easy.
I give an idea. You don't recruit stars based on their star rankings. I guess we meant. But when you see the top 25 programs tend to get a lot of the top 25 recruiting classes, how much does the performance this season, and even especially the ACC championship game, make you realize the difference of what type of players you need to get to the next level in terms of winning the championship?
Yeah, you could always use better players, bigger players, but I think when you look at the tape, you evaluate where you are. You don't have to get all those 5 stars to do that. We've done it before. I mean, you look at Clemson's a good football team. We beat them one other time, and again, they are here. Okay, they're the measuring stick, I think, of the ACC right now, and maybe the country if they win another national championship. So they're elite. They're an elite area of football down south, and it's a little different ballgame. It doesn't mean we can't beat them in the ACC championship. We'll do it with our guys. We'll do it with character, and we'll find a way to get it done. But we're going to still, recruit the guys we're capable of recruiting. We're not going to whine if we don't get a 5-star. I mean, there's a lot of 5 stars that we love. There's a lot of 5 stars we don't love, and we're like, see you later. not good enough. And there's a lot of things you don't like about them. And I like those hungry guys. And I'm not saying we're going to turn down 4 and 5 star players, because that's not what we do. We don't even look at it. We're looking at the best football players that fit our system and fit who we are. They're going to fit with our football team. I think that's the important thing. I've been involved with some of those guys. Excuse me. I've been involved with some of those guys that can drive this room nuts. With egos and that doesn't help a football team win. And you can see that. You can look at the programs that get a lot of 4 or 5 stars that win championships, and you can look at some of the others that get 4 or 5 stars that don't win any. And why is that? So those are
I was going to ask you, is it fair to say that you're trying to build a program with a certain type of character that the 4 and 5 star players will gravitate toward that, as opposed to the other way around, trying to bring in 4 and 5 stars to build the program up a certain way?
No, we're not looking for guys that just fit our. There's a lot of great character 4 and 5 star guys that fit perfectly in here. We want the best student athlete we can get, the character, the whole deal. And it doesn't matter what the stars are. We're recruiting. We throw offers out to those guys. They got to get on campus, and if we can get them on campus, we got a chance to get them. If we can't get them on campus, we're not going to have an opportunity to get that guy.
Winning the Coastal, getting the ACC final, helps that cause?
It'll certainly help that cause. I think we talked about that earlier. That I think Bittner maybe didn't help us in 19, but I think it'll help us in 20 and going forward for sure.
A couple more questions.
Do you have an idea of how many guys you're still looking at for the next time period, or what positions that you still feel like you have?
I'm going to have no comment on that. We'll just, no, not really. Again, it's always fluid, I think. You see how, the transfer thing happens. We're just going to keep moving. I don't know.
Will there be transfers this year?
I don't know.
In terms of the reception, you said it's going to help you in 2020. What has it been like to?
We think it will.
What has it been like to go into the homes or to start recruiting kids that are in the sophomore, junior classes, saying, "Hey, we're the ACC Coastal Division"? How much have you seen a reception to that already, just in the early stages?
Well, we can't go in any of the, those sophomores or juniors' houses, and we can't even talk to them when we go to school. So that's what, we can't do that. But it's just that image of playing in that game, and there was only 12 teams really playing on that day. So we've had limited contact with those guys. We know who they are. We walk in their high schools. You may watch them in spring ball. You may watch them in, in their practices in the playoffs. You may watch them play basketball. You may watch them wrestle, but we have no contact with them. You may walk by them, but that's about it. And you can't talk to them. So that's kind of, but they, it's nice when you walk in with that on, and it's nice if you walk in with a shirt that says ACC Championship or ACC Coastal Championship shirts on, which we'll have in January.
Jerry's the last one.
It's
You're
kind
the
of
last one,
kind of
Jerry.
an off-ball question, but isn't it kind of silly? I mean, for instance, that way, make a rule where you have to walk by a kid, you can't actually say hello or.
I like the rule. I like the rule.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, when you talk about having conversations with a guy, it could get out of control. What's going to stop you from going to an elementary school to this big kid? I mean, sometimes there's rumors out there that we offered an 8th grader, 9th grader. That's a bunch of baloney. I'll start there, okay? We don't need it. Those kids need to live their life. They don't need that early contact. I wish the thing would slow down. I told you I like to slow it down, and I think too many coaches nowadays make too many mistakes offering guys early. And that's why I like what we do. We try to slow the process down. If we don't get that 5-star guy because we're not sure or we didn't see him in camp, I'm good with that. I'd rather be sure with who we get than be taking these swings at guys that, aren't good enough, in our opinion. Our evaluation. Everybody's got a different evaluation. Everybody's got different motives as far as why they offer a kid, why they get offered, why does a guy get offered to go to the NFL Combine, and really doesn't play much of his senior year? Why is that? Or his junior year? Why is that? They got different, things that they have to get done. And, so, I have no regrets in, I don't want to have conversations. We don't have time for that either. If our coaches were going out, talking to juniors, they're not getting to as many schools and seeing as many high school coaches as they can. And, we want to contact as many different schools as we can. And if I spend, an hour and a half over here talking to that guy, it's mass chaos in the spring. If there's a good player in the spring, let's just say this May, looking at the 2020 class, if there's a 4-star here in the city of Pittsburgh, or this player that everybody in the country's offered, can you imagine what that guy would get done academically that day in that 4 or 5 week period? He wouldn't get anything done. There'll be a school. He might as well not go to class. And I just don't think there's a need for it. I just think it's way too early. And they still got time to, they still have room for development. That's my old school opinion.